Howdy, y'all. I don't know. Boop. All right. 17. All right, y'all. Listen, I heard enough comments this morning. I told you last week, I can't be late because the class don't start until I get here. Right? I can't be late, Miss Betty. No, I can't be late. It's impossible for me to be late because the class doesn't start until I walk in. You can be late. Hey, that's the nicest thing you ever said to me.
She was here.
That's all I get for the year?
That's it for the year.
Okay, we are in the book of Judges, chapter 17. We have finally dealt with this guy named Samson. What a good guy that guy was. I'll tell you what. He had the strength, unlike really anyone we've seen before in Scripture. And yet, he had some vices, you know. He was a ladies' man, as you might say. And you'd think that he'd figure it out. Him and Delilah, you know, you'd think so, but he didn't quite figure it out. Faye said that's the power of a nagging woman, and I would never say that. You know, I started preaching when I was 20 years old. They thought I was 26, and they're hiring a young guy. And then the guys that hired me, they're like, what year were you born? Like 88? And I go, my son was born in 88. He's only 20. And I go, well, let's put 2 and 2 together here. Let's figure out. If I'm the same age as your son and he's 20, how old do you think I am? Are you 20? Like, yeah. I already signed the contract. You guys are stuck with me. He was a state trooper, the guy I was talking to, for the West Virginia State Troopers. And he was an undercover narcotics officer. And he looked the part. I mean, he was aging out of that program because he was not looking like he was not a cop anymore. That's a double negative, right? And so apparently when I was 20 or 21, I told him, hey, you should go to preaching school. And so he called me 2 years ago and goes, is this Alan? I go, is this Andy? I'm like, yeah, I got your number still saved, and I have your grandma's picture of you with hair. Yeah, big old brown afro. He goes, well, I want to let you know something. I go, what's that? He goes, I'm going to the West Virginia School of Preaching. I go, okay. Very funny, har har. He goes, no, you told me. I go, you mean it? I told you 12 years ago. He goes, oh, no, it wasn't that long ago. Again, the guy was not great at math and ages. So, anyway, like I said, Faye would say that's the power of a nagging woman. I would never say that. Now, a 20-year-old Alan might. Okay. All right. Judges 17. We're moving on here. I've given you the warning. If you were here last week, I gave you the warning that if Samson is too much for you, meaning like the situation that he found himself in multiple times where he was trying to be the savior or the judge or the redeemer that God needed him to be. I mean, the Lord made it work through him, but it was not an easy battle for God to use Samson and who he was. If that was a lot for you, the rest of the book is going to be a bit worse. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go through this, and then we're going to make some comments along the way as we do. And then if you have any questions or any comments or any concerns, raise your hand, speak up. The only ones that don't raise their hand here are Caitlin and Betty and Lisa. Everybody else raise your hands, right? Those are my gauges for the class, by the way. You weren't talking?
Only ones.
Oh, you're the only ones talking? Well, I'm glad you're back.
You make comments.
Yeah, well, you make a lot of comments. Missed you so much.
I figured.
Did you watch the videos? I called you out a couple times.
I watched most of them, but as
Yeah.
people make comments, it's very difficult to sit in your living room and try to get involved in what you're seeing on this little screen.
Yeah, well, I said I'd try to repeat the questions and comments, but I'll try to do better. Okay, those that are watching at home, I'll do better. Maybe. Okay, verse 1. There was a man from the hill country of Ephraim named Micah. It's a good biblical name, right? Not the one who wrote the prophet book, but different Micah, but same deal. Verse 2. He said to his mother, the 1,100 pieces of silver taken from you, and that I heard you place a curse on, here's the silver, I took it. So we are jumping right into a family dynamic in which we have something going on here. You got a guy named Micah. Apparently he stole some silver from his mom. I mean, who would ever do that? If you've had a young boy before, I don't know. Maybe you've experienced something like this. Knowing where the purse is, knowing where the wallet is, knowing where the cash is. I mean, I would never do that, but here's what this guy did. I took it. Then the mother said, my son, may you be blessed by the Lord. So just to reiterate forever and all time, whenever you see capital L-O-R-D here in 1 point smaller font in your text, what does that indicate to us? Yahweh, the tetragrammaton, the 4 consonants here that are used to signify the great I am from Exodus chapter 3, verses 3 through 5, right? We all knew that, didn't we? Okay, just making sure. No answers, but I assume you know it. Okay, verse 3. He returned the 1,100 pieces of silver to his mother, and the mother said, I personally consecrate the silver to Yahweh for my son's benefit. Let's keep reading. Sounds great so far, doesn't it? To make a carved image and a silver idol. I will give it back to you. Okay, all right. Started out great. There is a problem here, though, theologically. What's the problem?
Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven images.
No graven images is one of the big 10, right? So, I mean, all right, intention, I guess, is good, but you're missing some theology here. So here's what happened. Verse 4. So he returned the silver to his mother, and she took 5 pounds of silver and gave it to a silversmith, as you do. He carved it into a carved image and a silver idol, and it was in Micah's house. All right. So here's the deal. These household deities, these shrines to these household gods, that was a very common thing in ancient Canaan, right? So the people that lived there before the Israelites came through across the Jordan in the book of Joshua, and they were supposed to eradicate the entirety of the people here, and they didn't, right? That was kind of a big deal. And the Lord said, hey, because you didn't do that, they're going to be a thorn in your side, and they're going to influence you and your generations forever, right? You're going to intermarry with them, and you're going to serve their gods. That's a problem, because the whole point is to be dedicated to a singular national God, if you will, from their perspective. And so this whole household god thing is not an uncommon thing. We'll find excavations in archaeology from the 30s until where we are now in ancient Canaan, we would call it. And they find excavations of homes, and they find idols in the homes, because that's what you do if you're in Canaan. That's not to be what they did if they were Israelites. Okay, this man Micah had a shrine, and he made an ephod and household idols and installed one of his sons to be his priest. And then here we have the first time this particular phraseology is mentioned in the book of Judges. In those days, there was no king in Israel. Everyone did whatever seemed right to him. This is what the CSB, the Christian Standard Bible, says. ESV is similar, might be more familiar with that phraseology, but that's CSB for us for the year. Okay, so a couple things here. So what is an ephod? Let's clarify that in case we don't know. A thing you wear, all right, let's get a little bit more specific.
Priestly garment.
All right, so it's a plate carrier, I would call it nowadays. Right?
Priestly garment.
Priestly garment, it is. It's a plate carrier for priests, right? I mean, what do you get? Kind of blending worlds together. So it was a big plate. You have usually, the one we talk about more often than not, is for the high priest of Israel for Yahweh God. He would have 12 stones there to represent the 12 tribes of Israel. So he's going full in. He's got the whole outfit and everything. He's got one of his sons to be elevated to be his priest for this household god or gods, according to verse 5, that first or second clause there. So, okay, one small, more kind of nuanced thing here. This is no surprise, I hope, to the majority of us. But when you read in verse 6, in those days there was no king in Israel. We'll pause right there at the end of that particular clause. What does that tell us about who wrote it and when this was written?
Before the kings of Israel.
Okay, there was,
Established by God,
right,
and the king, God was supposed to be their king.
Right.
There was no king.
so it is written post-king, right? So in those days, back in the day, there was no king in Israel, implying that when this was written, there was a king in Israel. So either we're talking about King Saul or King David or King Solomon, but I think the one that makes the most sense to us might be Samuel was talking about this when David was king, more than likely. Right? Okay. Any comments about that section? So again, like I said, if he had a problem with like Gideon asking for confirmation 4 times over from God, that he was the right one, that God called specifically, am I the right one, am I the right one, then that's better than this, right? Okay, verse 7. There was a young man, a Levite from Bethlehem, that's an interesting location, right, as always, in Judah, who is staying within the clan of Judah. Cool. The man left the town of Bethlehem in Judah to stay wherever he could find a place. Well, where was his land? All right. All right. I set you guys up and you passed with flying colors. The Levites were not given a plot of land. Their mission was to be priests for the tabernacle, no temple quite yet. And so because of the tabernacle, the not being at a particular location for very long, it probably stayed in Shiloh the longest. He's just kind of doing his job and kind of moving around within Judah. On his way, he came to Micah's home in the hill country of Ephraim. So we're kind of having the meeting of these two different mindsets. You've got a Levite who is a priest according to his inheritance, right? You've also got this guy, Micah, who stole some money from his mom. The mom cursed it. He fessed up to it. The mom gave him the silver, made a bunch of household idols and shrines. His son, he elevated to be a priest of these gods. So you'd think they might have an interesting conversation, right? So here's verse 9. Where do you come from? Micah asked him. He answered, I'm a Levite from Bethlehem in Judah. I'm going to stay wherever I can find a place. Micah replied, hey, you know what? I'm full of hospitality. Stay with me and be my father and priest. And then here's the deal. I will give you 4 ounces of silver a year, along with your clothing and provisions. Interesting deal, right? This phraseology here, stay with me, be my father and my priest. So he's asking for him to, hey, take my son's place. You're actually a priest. How about you be a priest here for my household gods? So the Levite went in and agreed to stay with the man, and the young man became like one of his sons. All right, so what's your read on this so far?
Priest for hire?
Priest for hire, yes.
So far, he didn't change anything in the household.
Yeah,
You've got idols there.
yep, you got idol. Well, you have household gods, idols in the house. The Levites are looking for a job because, hey, I got a whole panoply of gods right here. Let's go ahead and get you hired up, and you can be the guy for our household, right? Probably for our town. Being a Levite, traveling through Judah, not staying near Shiloh where the tabernacle was is our first clue that maybe this guy is not quite squared away, right? you expect to find a Levite kind of near the tabernacle where you'd serve God as a Levite. But he's just kind of traveling through trying to make ends meet. I mean, hey, 4 ounces of silver a year, and my food, and my clothing. Pretty sweet deal. This is like a Craigslist post, you know? Yeah, Facebook Marketplace. The guy's like, yeah, this sounds pretty good to me. All right, let's keep reading. Verse 13.
Had a time that they had served, and they had a time they didn't serve.
Mhm.
And at a certain age and times, obviously it wasn't his time, but beyond that, he was willing to be hired out, which they weren't supposed to.
Well, yeah, the Levites, so the high priest for sure had that job, and then the main priest that would offer sacrifices and do the incense and the showbread and so on had that schedule, if you will. But if you were a Levite, you're supposed to be a servant of the temple as well, or the tabernacle as well. So there was like keeping in stock and keeping inventory, if you will, of the tabernacle. So he had a job he could have been doing, and he found one, but it's not the right one. Mac?
4 ounces of silver is not much.
Hey, it's better than nothing.
It is better than nothing, but just to give you an equivalent conversion.
Okay.
That 4 ounces of silver is about the equivalent of $5 US, 1792.
So, I mean, hey, better than nothing.
Better than nothing, but, 1792, $1 a week.
Well,
Was-
according to the cost of things too. He didn't have a house, he didn't have to.
Right.
He was providing the house.
He had full lodging,
I-
clothing, and food, yes.
There was no mall that he needed.
Flashback to
shopping.
preachers' houses.
It was pretty good.
You know what?
Things were provided.
We'll pay your utilities. You got a free house to live in across the field.
So all his basic needs were met, and then he could just save the money.
I was out for a batch.
Yeah.
Okay, how about we keep reading? Y'all cool with that?
Sure.
All right. Then Micah said, verse 13, now I know that Yahweh will be good to me because a Levite has become my priest.
So he knows some of the law.
Well, he knows that God's there, because we have the mother mentioning Yahweh, God, in the previous text, right? To the silver, to Yahweh, for my son's benefit, to make a carved image and silver idol. So they have knowledge of God, but it's kind of not quite hitting on all cylinders. Like we've got that there is Yahweh God, and more than likely the mindset would have been at this point, he is one among many. He's a great, powerful God, but I mean, we have so many gods around us. Let's just make a one for our household. Well, he's trying to buy God's favor. Probably not a good idea. Chapter 18, verse 1. In those days, there was no king in Israel, and the Danite tribe was looking for territory to occupy. Well, that's kind of weird, right? Here's the next sentence. Up to that time, no territory had been captured by them among the tribes of Israel. Okay, so you have Dan. Verse 2. So the Danites sent out 5 brave men from all their clans, from Zorah to Eshtaol, to scout out the land and explore it. They told them, go and explore the land. And then guess what? They came to the hill country of, whoops, where'd he go? There we go. All right. He came to the hill country of Ephraim as far as the home of Micah and spent the night there. So Micah is like, kind of in charge here because he's giving people the run-in. Verse 3, while they were near Micah's home, they recognized the accent of the young Levite. So they went over to him and asked, who brought you here? What are you doing in this place? What is keeping you here? So interestingly, the folks from Dan recognize that the Levite is away from his home country. I'm not sure what accent they would have had, but he's from Bethlehem, so thick southern drawl? Is that the parallel? Okay.
Before or after they were, that period where they were having to make you cross, you had to say a certain word because they.
Well, that was like flashback 2 judges ago, so we're like 2 generations ago. And so Sibboleth and Shibboleth, right? If you couldn't do the sh sound and they merge you on the spot,
Yeah.
that's Israelite on Israelite conflict. Again, not what God wanted at all. They wanted them to be a nation of priests, and to be able to serve God and work together and be in the blessed land, but none of that came to fruition at this point, for sure.
If the Levites didn't have their own.
I know you're not going to raise your hand. Don't even try now. Go ahead.
And they don't have their own area, how did they have a dialect that the Danites would pick up on?
They're supposed to have so many cities per,
Yeah, the Levites, they were supposed to be traveling priests. So they didn't have a homestead. But apparently, during this time, they came from all one area. And they recognized that the people in this area where Micah lived, his guy sounds different.
It was
I
all
don't
the
know.
chanting that they did, you know.
All the chanting?
Yeah, you
No, the Gregorian chants wouldn't come until much later.
You don't know.
You're right, I don't know, but the Gregorian chant did not exist at this point. So,
Makes much sense. There's some other questions.
all right,
I
listen,
can ask.
ladies, I'll tell you what. All right, verse 4, he told them, this is what Micah has done for me. He has hired me, and I became his priest, as he could do. Then they said to him, please inquire of God for us to determine if we will have a successful journey. Like, okay, all right, so far, nothing too heretical going on. Okay, they just ask, hey, you're a priest, or you're a Levite, you know God, talk to God for us. Cool. The priest told them, go in peace, as Dave says every single morning, right? The Lord, Yahweh, is watching over the journey you are going on. Weird, though, there's no, details about how we got that information. Strange, isn't that? Verse 7, the 5 men left and came to Laish. They saw that the people who were there were living securely, in the same way as the Sidonians, quiet and unsuspecting. I mean, what a curious thing to find here. Hey, these guys are comfortable. They're living pretty well. They don't suspect us of trying to take all their stuff from them. Cool. There was nothing lacking in the land and no oppressive ruler. They were far from the Sidonians, having no alliance with anyone. I mean, this is just like teeing it up for us.
Yeah.
When the men went back to their relatives of Zorah and Eshtaol, their relatives asked them, what did you find out? They answered, come on, let's attack them, for we've seen the land and it is very good. Why wait? Don't hesitate to go and invade and take possession of the land. When you get there, you will come to an unsuspecting people in a spacious land, for God has handed it over to you. It is a place where nothing on earth is lacking. 600 Danites departed from Zorah and Eshtaol, armed with weapons of war. They went up and camped in Kiriath-Jearim in Judah. That is why the place is still called Camp of Dan today. It's west of Kiriath-Jearim, as you know, I'm sure. So the author is like, the Camp of Dan, you know where that is? Well, here's the story of why it's called the Camp of Dan in his day. Okay. From there, they traveled to the hill country of Ephraim and arrived at Micah's house. The 5 men who had gone out to scout the land of Laish told their brothers, did you know that there are an ephod, household gods, and a carved image and a silver idol in these houses? Now think about what you should do. So they detoured there and went to the house of the young Levite at the home of Micah and greeted him. The 600 Danite men were standing by the entrance of the city gate, armed with weapons of war. Then the 5 men who had gone to scout out the land went in, took the carved image, the ephod, and the household idols, and the silver idol, while the priest was standing by the entrance of the city gate with the 600 armed men of weapons of war. Well, that's not very nice, right?
You got a guy, let's take that.
I mean, it's
It'd be cool to have a.
silver. We're going to go to a place, I mean,
Yeah.
but not very nice.
No, not very nice. Well, they're going on to an unsuspecting people, so.
I mean,
They're not on a very nice mission.
well, sweet old lady had no idea we could take all their stuff. Okay. Verse 18. When they entered Micah's house and took the carved image, the ephod, the household idols, and the silver idol, the priest said to them, what you doing? They told him, be quiet, keep your mouth shut, come with us and be a father and a priest to us. Is it better for you to be a priest for the household of one person or for you to be a priest of a tribe and a family in Israel? Hey. I mean, he got promoted.
An offer he couldn't refuse.
Sounds pretty good. Now, if you're reading this, okay, imagine that you are Samuel, and you're writing all this down. We don't know if Samuel wrote it, but it makes the most sense, I think. So you got Samuel writing this stuff down, and you have, I don't know, like King David reading this, and he's like, this is what was going on before, like, we had a unified kingdom. Like, this is some wild stuff. Like, everyone is just doing whatever they want. There's no centralized leadership, which is a bad thing if your leadership is godly and God-fearing and is trying to establish a precedent for the whole nation to follow. Again, not so great if you've got an evil king who's not worshiping Yahweh God correctly and he's influencing all the people below him. But this hierarchy of a singular human fallible king, and then you have the governors and satraps and princes and so on below him, the structure there. We don't have that yet. So this is just one incident, I'm sure, of many that are recorded or not recorded for us. So what happens? So the priest was pleased. I mean, yeah, all right, sounds pretty good. Took the ephod, household idols, and carved image and went with the people. They prepared to leave, putting their dependents, this is CSB, okay? So I've not read dependents in the Bible as the IRS determines them. Putting their children, livestock, and possessions in front of them. Cool. After there were some distance from Micah's house, the men who were in the houses near it were mustered and caught up with the Danites. They called to the Danites, who turned to face them and said to Micah, "What's the matter with you that you mustered the men?" He said, "You took the gods I had made and the priest and went away. What do I have left now? How can you say to me, 'What's the matter with you?'" I love CSB is very like vernacular English, and I love it because it makes it so like not comical, but very, very modern, right? The Danites said to him, "Don't raise your voice against us, or angry men will attack you," as opposed to unangry men attacking you. "And you and your family will lose your lives." Okay? The Danites went on their way, and Micah turned to go back home because he saw that they were stronger than he was. Oh, what in the world's going on here? We got not good interacting with not good, right? You got the Danites. They're looking for a place to settle. They want their own house. And to do so, they found a weird idolatrous situation happening near Micah's house. Okay. After they had taken the gods Micah had made, and the priests that belonged to him, they went to Laish, to a quiet and unsuspecting people. I mean, where else would you go? They already found them once, right? They killed them with their swords and burned the city. Well, it's going to ruin the infrastructure, but never mind. Verse 28, there was no one to rescue them because it was far from Sidon, and they had no alliance with anyone. It was in a valley that belonged to Beth Rehob. They rebuilt the city, I suppose so, and lived in it. They named the city Dan, after the name of their ancestor Dan, who was born to Israel. The city was formerly known as Laish, where the Philistines were. All right, so Dan's got a home territory now. I guess that's good. I mean, we don't see any divine interaction here. We just have people of their own strength and their own power killing an unsuspecting, peaceful people. Probably not great. Verse 30, the Danites set up the carved image for themselves. Jonathan, the son of Gershom, son of Moses, and his sons were priests from the Danite tribe until the time of the exile from the land. Okay, so now we've got a real fast forward here, don't we? Okay, so we have Jonathan, son of Gershom, son of Moses. So Jonathan's his grandfather was Moses. And the sons were priests for the Danite tribe, not for the nation of Israel, but for the Danite tribe. And they were there until the time of the exile from the land. So that gives us one more clue here about the authorship of the book of Judges, does it not? Okay, so when's the exile of the land?
That was after Solomon.
For sure. Yeah. So we have Saul, David, Solomon, and then we have the split, right? Northern and southern tribes. Interestingly, this information has been recorded that includes the exile. So whoever wrote this knows about the exile. So I think Samuel's out of the running for authorship, right? Here's an idea for you. Do you recall that when the nation of Israel split, you had Judah and Benjamin out over here near Jerusalem, then you had the northern tribes, right? How many good, godly kings did the south have? All said and done?
2.
More than that.
More than the other,
More than 2.
more than the northern tribes.
5.
2. So close. 4. They had 4 kings that the Bible calls them, that they feared the Lord and the nation prospered during their reign. How many did the northern tribes have? All said and done. Not a single one. What was one of the biggest things that they did in the north? Well, you can't go down to the southern kingdom to go to where Jerusalem is to worship Yahweh God. What's the solution to that?
They put their own.
Set up your own temple.
So you got Dan, where you can worship Yahweh God and serve the priesthood that is there. And we have one in the north. So if you live up north, you can go up here. If you live down south, don't go to Jerusalem, go to Dan. There's already priesthoods that are there. So this influenced the split nation of Israel later on in their history to say, we've already got a place to worship Yahweh God. I mean, he's among other gods, but sure, he's there too. So that's the establishment of that. Okay, verse 31. So they set up for themselves Micah's carved image that he had made, and it was there as long as the house of God was in Shiloh. So this gives us that pinpoint, which I thought I knew already, that the tabernacle is in Shiloh, which is close, but not in Dan. All right, questions, comments? We have corruption spreading as corruption does. Unless he is named, but the generation after him, right?
Well, it says when they set up Micah's idols,
Mm-hmm.
the Danites set up the carved image for themselves.
Yeah.
And Jonathan, son of Gershom, son of Moses, and his sons were priests. So apparently this young Levite was from...
Could be, unless the author just gives an indication about what the priesthood lineage was from that guy, that Levite, to the exile. Just kind of establishing here's the chain of custody, if you will, of who's in charge of those carved images. Again, none of this is good. It's not what God wanted. But,
And nobody speaks up and says. I mean, nobody says.
well, if
This is not right.
there's anyone who would have been qualified knowledge-wise to be able to fix this whole situation theologically, you'd think a Levite would know the law. That's kind of the job, right? You're born into it. And yet he's like, hey, I mean, this is pretty good.
He left his father's house.
Could be.
I mean, even Moses' own grandson, I
Yeah.
mean, you think he would have been brought up
Well, I mean,
day one.
yeah. I know that families are difficult and complicated, and there's always nuance. But,
Well, you look at Aaron's sons.
well, I was going to say that. You got 2 of them struck dead because they were drunk and they were offering their sacrifices. Don't do that.
Eli's sons.
The big one to me is always Samuel's sons. I mean, Samuel is the guy. Like, he is the rock in the storm of 1 Samuel. And yet you look at his sons, and they were the most corrupt, evil guys you've ever seen. So, anyway, it's difficult because when you look into the New Testament, you might get an image that, hey, if you're a good Christian man and you're a good Christian woman and you guys are married and you have a good Christian household, then no doubt your children will be set up for success. And I'm here to tell you, as a minister who deals with people in their families in an intimate way, I know that's not true. Because sometimes you just get situations that happen, and it's not because of the influences from the parents not being godly. They are. So people are people, and you do the best you can. And there are countless images that we have in Scripture of good, godly, God-fearing, God-loved people, and the children just going off the rails. I mean, David's no exception for that, for sure. Abraham's no exception for that, for sure. I mean, Jacob, that poor joker, he had a situation at home that was complicated, and he made the best out of it, although I don't like him as a person, sorry. But Jacob, he's got some deception going on. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to pause here in chapter 19. We're going to pick this up and continue the narrative. It's going to get really wild, okay? There's going to be some things happening here, including mutilation and murder and rape. And this is not a topic that I like talking about, but it is going to be a thing that is Scripture. And we want to talk about it as the way the Bible talks about it, and then just kind of see the perspective from the author's writing, and then we'll make our applications, if we can, a little bit later. So we're going to pause here for the morning. We'll pick this up, Lord willing, next week, and then we will be dismissed now and have 20 minutes before worship begins. Thank you.